picking up our exploration of the fall of the House of Ollis today.
And we're looking at a moment that felt like, well, like everything just cracked wide open.
Exactly. We're titling this deep dive The Price of Deception, Tammy's Unraveling, because that's really what it comes down to. We're focusing on what, for many people watching this unfold, was a huge turning point.
A moment where the carefully constructed facade just shattered publicly. But before we really get into the weeds here, we absolutely have to pause and give our sincere thanks.
Yes, definitely.
This entire deep dive, the time it takes to really go through this material carefully, it's all made possible because of the very generous financing from the Church of Deborah.
Their support is invaluable. It lets us do this kind of detailed work. So thank you, Church of Deborah.
Thank you.
Okay, so our source material for today, it's pretty focused. We're pulling key excerpts from a video confession, a confession made by Paul Ollis himself.
Yeah. And, on the surface, a confession video might seem straightforward, someone admitting they did wrong.
Right. But we're not just here to note the admission. Our goal, our mission today, is to use Paul's words almost like a lens.
A lens into what, exactly?
The reality of the life Tammy was living. A life under, this immense hidden pressure. And crucially, what his admissions reveal about her experience within that fabricated world.
And the impact it had on her, the profound, devastating impact.
Precisely. We need to really unpack every layer of what Paul says in this confession.
Understand the specific lies he admits to, how they work, who they were directed at.
Yes, but the core of it, the thing we really need to drill down into, is the effect on Tammy, the ripple effect of these revelations, and the past actions he hints at, too.
How they all led to the collapse, the fall of their life together. Because his confession, it isn't just about him owning his mistakes.
No, it's almost like like an unintentional map of the pressures that broke everything for her.
So this video, it really was a pivotal moment, wasn't it, for anyone following their story?
Oh, absolutely. It spread like wildfire. Everyone was talking about it. It marked a huge shift in the public story of Paul and Tammy.
Before this, there was a certain narrative being presented.
Right.
Carefully managed, perhaps.
Very carefully. And this video didn't just tweak it, it completely blew it up. Revealed this hidden layer of, deceit.
And this is where we have to immediately pivot to Tammy. Because even though it's Paul speaking, it's Paul confessing.
The real story that emerges, the one that hits you when you look at the consequences, is about her.
Exactly. It's like a sudden harsh spotlight exposing this hidden reality she'd been living in for who knows how long.
Right. The lies, the financial mess, the emotional strain, all things she was dealing with, apparently, without knowing the full picture.
These pressures, completely invisible to her, just building and building, until, as Paul himself admits, she reaches a breaking point.
So his confession becomes this sort of delayed, maybe even unwilling acknowledgement of the suffering his own actions caused her.
Let's dive right into the big revelations then, about the immediate crisis. He's pretty clear about what kicked it all off, right?
Yeah, remarkably so. He admits, plain as day, to cashing a fraudulent check. That's the specific illegal act that seems to have triggered this whole public meltdown.
Okay, so the fraudulent check is the catalyst, and he says what he did with the money.
He does. He says specifically he used those funds to pay off their car.
Ah, okay. So a very concrete, shared financial obligation, paid off with illegal money.
Exactly. And he also adds, almost casually, that he paid off a couple other things.
Couple other things. That's interesting. It suggests it wasn't just one desperate move for one bill.
Right. It sounds like maybe a broader pattern, or at least using these fraudulent funds for multiple expenses, hints at a deeper financial hole, maybe.
Could be. Now, this is where the web of lies starts to get really tangled and where the impact on Tammy becomes so clear. He starts listing who he lied to about where this money came from.
Yeah. He starts with his online followers. He admits he lied when he'd previously said he couldn't say who paid off the car.
And his words were pretty blunt.
Very. He says, it was me using the fraudulent money and, quote, when I told you guys that, I was lying to you. Direct admission of deceiving his own audience.
Wow. That gets right to the trust they might have had in him, the people supporting them online.
Definitely erodes that public persona he'd built, but the lies didn't stop there.
No, he mentions the church community too, which seemed like a really central part of their lives, their identity.
He says, we even told the church that was a lie to the church. Now, the we is interesting there, but the key is a lie was told to the church.
And he seems to understand the gravity of that.
Oh, yeah. He emphasizes where he did it, saying he did it in the church house, calling it a reproach to God's house, reproach to me.
So framing it as not just breaking trust with people, but as a spiritual violation too.
Exactly. And he adds he lied at the church, calling it a being a lie to God. He even says the pastor and his wife know and that he's going to confess everything before the church.
That indicates how serious it was within their faith community. Not just a casual fib, but something requiring public repentance before the whole congregation.
The pressure to maintain that lie, especially in that setting, must have been immense.
Mm-hmm. And the circle widens.
It does. It's very close to home. He specifically admits lied to Tammy's family.
Oh, wow. That's huge. So the deception wasn't contained. It infected their personal relationships too.
Imagine Tammy, completely unaware, potentially backing up his story to her own parents, her siblings, believing it herself.
That adds such a painful layer to her situation, carrying his lie without even knowing it.
And then he sort of generalizes, saying he lied to most everybody that we told about the car payoff.
So painting a picture of this widespread facade, actively maintained through lies, to basically everyone they knew who might ask about the car.
Staggering the scope of it.
And then he gets to the lie, directed at Tammy herself.
Yes. This feels like the most devastating layer. He's absolutely clear. He says, quote, "And I lied to Tammy because she didn't know nothing about it.
Right.
She had no involvement at all in having everything done. I did it all behind her back, and I hid it from her. That was a deception to her."
So his own words explicitly state her ignorance, her lack of involvement in the fraud.
Right. But it's more than just her not knowing about the crime. The way he describes it all behind her back, hid it from her. This wasn't just forgetting to mention something.
Oh, this sounds like a deliberate, sustained effort.
Exactly. An active construction of a false reality. He built this whole financial situation, this narrative around the car, and forced her to live inside it without her knowledge or consent.
That's a profound violation of trust in a marriage. It's not just an omission. It's creating a lie she unknowingly inhabits.
She was essentially living his lie, presenting it to the world, maybe even to herself, as truth.
The psychological whiplash when that truth comes out. Realizing your shared life, your finances, your public image were built on something completely false. That's immense.
And she was exposed by his secret actions, unknowingly complicit in presenting his deception.
It's just incredibly damaging.
And right here, in the middle of him saying he lied to her, that she knew nothing, there's this moment in the video. It's brief, but wow.
What happens?
You hear Tammy's voice cut in. Clear as a bell, she says, "You lied to me too."
Whoa. Okay, right at that specific moment, as he's talking about lying to her about the fraud.
Exactly, and it's not edited out. It's left right there in the final video.
Which,
makes you think.
it really does. That timing, the fact it's included,
Yeah.
it just opens up so many questions about what was really going on in that room.
Right. We have to explore the possibilities here because that one line complicates everything.
Okay, possibility one. Could it just be
Okay.
raw emotion? Spontaneous.
Like, she's standing there, hearing him publicly admit he deceived her about this major thing, and it just bursts out. Pain, shock, maybe finally processing the weight of it.
It has that kind of abrupt, unrehearsed feel, maybe?
Yeah.
Like genuine feeling breaking through?
It could be, but then interpretation too. Is she only talking about the car payoff lie he's confessing right then?
Or is this her one chance, maybe, in this very controlled setting, to say something bigger?
Like acknowledging a whole pattern of lies, referencing the other betrayals he admits to later, like the cheating.
It's a sort of loaded statement, "You lied to me too," implying this isn't the first time, or the only lie. Like, oh, this lie, add it to the list.
That adds a whole other layer. It could be this concise expression of years of hurt.
Okay, but then there's a third way to look at it, especially since it was kept in the video.
The strategic angle.
Exactly. Given the timing, right, when he's stressing her innocence in the fraud, could her interjection actually be reinforcing that point?
Like subtly coaching him, or it'd be just underscoring for the audience. Yes, he lied to me about this specific thing, confirming I wasn't involved.
Could she be trying to guide the narrative, even in that small way, to make sure her non-involvement in the crime is crystal clear? Her presence, that line, it makes you wonder about the preparation for this video.
Was it discussed beforehand? Was that moment included deliberately to cement her innocence in the viewers' minds?
It's just fascinatingly ambiguous. That one line, "You lied to me too," it supports his claim she didn't know about the fraud.
But it could also hint at a much deeper history of deception.
It really forces you, the listener, to question, What did Tammy really know before this? What was she feeling right then? Was she playing a role, even subtly, in shaping how this confession came across?
It just leaves you hanging, doesn't it? No easy answers, just more questions about the dynamics of their relationship at that breaking point.
A tiny line, but it speaks volumes about the complexity.
Okay, let's pause here for a moment. We need to take our first ad break.
Right, a necessary breather in this pretty intense analysis.
Okay, here we go. Are you facing an existential void in your personal space? Does your home feel incomplete?
At the Chronos Catalyst Collective in Bakerville, we offer bespoke spatial recalibration services.
Our certified Chronos engineers discreetly realign your temporal dimensions, ensuring your living environment perfectly reflects your future self.
Guaranteed to leave you feeling lighter. Visit Chronos Catalyst Collective, Future Pager. You will thank us.
And we are back, continuing our deep dive into Paul's confession and focusing on the impact on Tammy.
So after admitting the fraud and the lies around it, Paul shifts gears slightly. He starts talking about the past.
Right. He acknowledges that this current mess isn't happening in a vacuum. He mentions things that I've done in the past that, quote, caused a lot of issues and significantly hurt Tammy.
That connection is key. He's linking the present crisis to a history of behavior that harmed the relationship.
And he gets specific about those past actions.
He does. Two main things. First, a huge one in any marriage. I had cheated on her in the past.
A direct admission of infidelity, a fundamental betrayal.
Absolutely devastating to trust and intimacy. And the second...
He says, at one time I was even having issues with pee.
Which, depending on the context of their beliefs and relationship, especially if it involves secrecy, can also be a major betrayal.
Right. It can create distance, erode trust, cause deep hurt for the partner.
And it's so important here to frame these not just as Paul's personal failings or struggles.
No, they were actions that directly harmed Tammy. He even says they hurt Tammy. Infidelity shatters security. Hidden issues with pornography can erode emotional safety and connection.
These weren't just things happening to him. They were things he did or secrets he kept that inflicted real wounds on her and damaged the very foundation of their marriage over time.
Now, Paul does try to put these issues firmly in the past. He says things like, all that's in the past and I'm not doing nothing like that. All of that's done behind me.
He wants to present it as resolved, overcome.
But how convincing is that, really, when he's simultaneously confessing to this massive recent web of lies and financial fraud?
Exactly. That's the huge contradiction. If he was capable of such elaborate deception right now, hiding the check, lying to everyone.
How can we just take his word for it that past patterns of deception like infidelity or hiding struggles are completely gone?
It severely undermines his claim of change. Does his current behavior maybe suggest the root issues, dishonesty, perhaps minimizing the impact on others, are still very much present?
It makes you question if those past issues were ever truly dealt with or just pushed down, only to resurface in this new form of deception.
And this brings us right back to how the past connects to the present crisis. That history of broken trust, the wounds from infidelity, maybe other things we don't even know about.
It created a foundation that was already shaky, unstable.
So when you pile this new massive betrayal, the fraud, the lies to her, her family, the church, onto that already damaged foundation.
It makes Tammy's reaction, her willingness to leave, seem almost inevitable. It's not just about the car fraud.
No, it feels like the culmination, the final straw after years, maybe decades, of cumulative damage. Broken promises, hidden truths, this latest deception just brought it all crashing down.
And Paul kind of admits this connection later, doesn't he, when he talks about needing to prove himself?
Yes, he says he needs to prove, especially to my wife, that I'm going to be faithful and loyal to her. That directly links the current need for proof back to his past failures in faithfulness and loyalty to infidelity.
So his own words show that the core issues he breached years ago are still the central, unresolved conflict now.
It highlights how deep those past wounds run, creating this massive trust deficit that only radical change or maybe separation seems capable of addressing from Tammy's perspective. The current crisis blew up because the foundations were already rotten.
Okay, let's shift to Paul's own experience during this. He talks about physical symptoms, right?
He does. He says plainly he's been having trouble sleeping.
And he connects this back to something Tammy asked him before.
Yeah, he mentions a previous video where she apparently asked him point blank if he had a guilty conscience.
And he denied it then.
He denied it then. But now, in this confession,
he connects the dots, he says, and I realize now that was the reason why. because I was having a guilty conscience.
And it wouldn't allow me to sleep because I had told her the lies, and everybody else, especially the ones at the church.
So he's admitting the lies were literally keeping him up at night, the internal cost of the deception on him.
It's a moment where he acknowledges the negative impact of his own actions on his own well-being, which is a step, I suppose.
But while he's focusing on his sleepless nights, his guilty conscience, we have to remember who created that situation.
Exactly. His suffering is a consequence of his choices. Tammy's suffering was different. She was the one forced to live inside the lie.
She had to deal with the reality. His deception created the financial instability, the lack of honesty, the betrayal likely without even knowing the full truth.
Her burden was living with the impact of his lies, while his burden was the guilt of telling them. It's not the same thing. Hers seems heavier, in a way, because she was unknowingly navigating a false reality.
Right. His sleeplessness is arguably deserved. Her situation was imposed upon her by his actions.
And this ties into those later admissions he makes about his broader failures as a partner. It wasn't just the big betrayals like cheating or fraud.
He says things like he hasn't really been a man, just a roommate. He blames himself, saying it's his own fault because what I haven't been doing.
Yeah, he even reflects on complaining about Tammy's physical limitations while realizing he was the one who was supposed to be supporting her and hadn't been. He admits he wasn't pulling his weight around the house either.
He says the more he works on getting his life straight, the more he sees what he hasn't been doing as a man.
These admissions paint a picture of neglect, failing to support her physically, emotionally, practically, reducing their marriage to just sharing space.
So the deception wasn't isolated. It was part of a larger pattern of failing to show up as a partner.
Exactly. The financial lies, the infidelity, the lack of support, they're all interconnected failures that created this unsustainable environment for Tammy. His guilt is a symptom. Her breaking point is the disease caused by his actions and neglect.
It's a really bleak picture of their life behind the scenes. Okay, let's take our second break.
Yes, good point. A moment to process before we look at the apology itself.
Unexpected. Organic matter. In Bakerville, life's little mysteries can sometimes leave a stain.
Bakerville Biomass Reclamation Services provides confidential, thorough, and highly efficient removal of all types of biological detritus. No job too peculiar.
Our discreet teams use only the most advanced, non-traceable methods to ensure your property is pristine and your secrets remain your own.
When the situation calls for specialized discretion, call Bakerville Biomass Reclamation Services. We leave no trace.
And we're back for the final segment of this deep dive into Paul Ull's confession. We've looked at the lies, the past betrayals, the impact on Tammy. Now let's analyze the apology itself.
Yeah, the language Paul uses, who he directs it to, and his stated reasons. They're very revealing.
He specifically apologizes to the YouTube world and the Facebook world, his external audiences.
And look at his stated goals. He says he's asking us to forgive me.
Yeah.
That his intention is to prove myself to you.
He even connects proving himself directly to getting support back, saying he has to prove myself to God first and to these people next in order to get them to support me anymore. He admits people have told him they won't help him now.
And he ties the confession to his own mental state, saying if he doesn't do it, he won't be able to have the rest of my mind.
Okay, so when the focus is so heavily on external audiences, regaining support, proving himself to others, and his own peace of mind.
It makes you question the primary motivation, doesn't it? Is this confession fundamentally about mitigating the consequences for him?
Is it a reaction to losing support, to the personal fallout, aimed at winning back favor and feeling better himself?
Or is it a truly selfless expression of remorse, focused mainly on the pain he caused, especially to Tammy?
The language really seems to lean towards the former. It feels more like a strategic move prompted by consequences, rather than a purely heartfelt apology focused on the victim's experience.
There might be genuine regret mixed in, sure.
Yeah.
But the explicit links to regaining support in his own mental state suggest a strong element of self-preservation driving this public act.
And that interpretation gets a massive boost from arguably the most crucial line in the whole video, the one that reveals just how dire things are with Tammy.
Which line is that?
He says, and this tells you everything about her mindset, it's even to the point where she's willing to leave me altogether until I can get my life straight.
Wow.
And then he immediately adds, I don't want that to happen.
Okay. That is definitive proof. The sheer weight of everything, the fraud, the lies, the cheating, the neglect of that head, it's pushed Tammy to the absolute edge.
Her willingness to leave entirely unless he makes fundamental changes. It shows the depth of the damage, the complete breakdown of trust.
It's her final boundary. Her breaking point after living, as his confession reveals, possibly years of deception and lack of support. This isn't a threat. It sounds like a decision born of desperation.
And Paul's immediate reaction, I don't want that to happen, followed by, I do love her. I want her to be in my life. I don't want to lose her.
See? His focus snaps right back to what he stands to lose.
Yeah.
Her. Their life together.
It strongly reinforces that the timing, the urgency, the public nature of this confession, the need to get my life straight, it's all heavily driven by the very real threat of her walking away.
Which underscores the potentially self-serving angle of the whole thing. It seems triggered less by pure remorse and more by the imminent, terrifying consequence of losing his wife and his life as he knew it.
Her breaking point seems to be the catalyst for his public reckoning.
This whole confession then becomes this stark accounting. It brutally reveals the price of Paul's deception, a price paid almost entirely by Tammy.
Yeah, if you sum it all up, the fraudulent check, the lies everywhere, audience, church, family, her, the past infidelity, the porn issues, the admission of just being a roommate, not a partner.
It's a pattern, systemic deceit and failure.
So this confession isn't just an oops, I messed up. It's a public unveiling of the rot that had set in, fueled by his actions.
It feels like a point of no return. Given the sheer scale of the damage revealed, the fall seems almost inevitable, baked into the reality he created.
And throughout all this, we have to keep circling back to Tammy. Paul's words give us this devastating glimpse into the pressure cooker she was living in.
The cumulative weight of his betrayals, past and present. Her decision to potentially leave wasn't out of the blue. It was the end result of living in that fabricated, damaging reality.
Her unraveling is a direct consequence. His confession is almost an unwitting testament to her suffering and her ultimate desperate choice.
It really makes you think about trust. After all this, the infidelity, the fraud, the constant lies, the neglect, Paul admits he needs to get my life straight, prove myself.
So here's the final thought for you, the listener, to wrestle with. Can trust ever truly be rebuilt after something like this? After such deep, layered, long-term deception?
Or does the sheer scale of Paul's confessed actions suggest that for Tammy, the fall of their life together has already happened? That the damage is irreversible, the break too profound for the partnership to ever truly recover?
A heavy question indeed. We'll continue to explore the aftermath and what came next in our ongoing deep dive into the fall of the House of Ollis.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.